We are back with the Pranic pages, and you can check out on YouTube, that's the playlist. This is Jerome Shaw with the Pranic pages, and today we're finishing up chapter 1 of Breatharianism, Breathe and Live Forever by Wiley Brooks and Nancy Foss. So thank you everyone for joining. Being aware of how the body functions is a big step in the direction of Breatharianism. For example, sleeping is one of the things that the body does to re-energize itself. Have you ever thought that perhaps sleeping time could somehow be cut down or even eliminated? During the state of sleep, all of the body's functions are running at a very slow rate. At this particular stage of body function, we risk the possibility of never waking up or death. If we put no toxins into the body, we would not have to sleep, since the body would not have to re-energize itself. Toxins are what causes the need for sleep. A more ideal way for the body to re-energize itself is to meditate. Meditation can open a whole new realm of self-knowledge as well as refresh the body, giving rise to little need for sleep. So as we hear often, meditation is the foundation, meditation is medication, the mother of creation is relaxation. It's like giving the body a vacation, right? But it also raises the vibration. So it lets go of a lot of mental constipation. It's really all around good for your radio station, right? Tuning your frequency is what you do frequently when you're radiating. So the most difficult stage of meditation is to get that never-ending little voice within to stop chattering. We call that the monkey mind. To stop the interference of the conscious mind with the other parts of the mind. Once you relax your mind to a state of quiet, you are free to continue to the next phase of creative meditation. This is where the real you becomes known. That intuitive part of you that can be freely expressed. Keep in mind that as you grow spiritually, all emotions will not necessarily be positive. We must learn to suffer just as easily as we learn pleasure. Some of our strongest growth comes from the lessons that cause much pain or suffering. Can you relate? Those are the moments in which we are sometimes at our highest state of consciousness. Once we realize that painful experiences can raise our vibrations, we can release the emotions that have been hiding in our subconsciousness, which have been creating very low vibrations. The heavier the food we put into our bodies, the lower the vibrations. As we learn to raise our vibrations by eating lighter foods, then we can become co-creators of ourselves. Removing the lower vibrations and allowing only the pure substance of spirit to be. At that point, we become radiant beings and are free to flow with the universe. As we begin to live with the laws of nature, we will notice one very evident thing. The aging process will be slowed down at a tremendous rate. There are many things that contribute to the aging process, which eventually, of course, lead to death. By cleansing the body, one can learn to stop the aging process. It is Wiley's personal goal to not leave his body unhealthy when it is his time to be elsewhere, whether that is considered death or not. The important thing is that when you do leave the body, perhaps by accident or by karmic process, it will be in the healthiest possible state. The conditions that destroy health are many. We are governed by habits, environment, and climate. If all of these things are good, then we would always experience health and longevity. But if these things are bad, our bodies can only adjust to them or become slowly degenerative and eventually die. That is what is known as the aging process, which for us terminates at about 80 years, while in biblical times, people lived for several hundred years. So let us look and take a look at how to reverse the aging process by the most natural method, and not at the end of some doctor's sacrificial scalpel. All things that damage the body also age the body. We are only too aware of some of the conditions that are detrimental to us, especially the ones that have the warnings stated right on the packages. For example, cigarette smoking. How much more warning do we need? Pick up any drug or medicine sold over the counter at the pharmacy. Read the warnings on the labels. We are being told very clearly that we are being poisoned. Sickness begins to age the body, and that begins at a very young age. And we help the process along, trying to remedy the illness by putting more poisonous drugs into our systems. Very simply, we give our bodies too much of everything. If we left our health up to nature, our longevity would increase very rapidly. The water we drink, the air we breathe, the exposure to long periods of intense sun or extreme cold, the long working hours we endure under intense pressure, wild parties, fast living, all of these age the body. As we remove each one of these things from our lives, the natural state of being will arise. Oh, okay. I see you, Wiley. I see you with the poetry. The only thing we cannot eliminate is the air we breathe. There is no creature alive on this earth that can live without air. To stop breathing is to stop living. Now, of course, I've heard of, some yogis and some saints that were able to demonstrate going underground and slowing their heartbeat down and slowing their breath down to like such a minimum that it was like they were just in stasis, almost like they were just frozen in time. And then years later, they, dug them out of the hole and like uncovered them, and they were still alive. Like their clothes was in tatters, their clothes was in shambles, but their body, hadn't decayed or anything. They remained, vibrant. It's amazing. It's amazing just what we can do with this body. So let us look. Oh, let me see. If these things are bad, okay. So it's talking about breath. If these things are bad, our body can only adjust to them. Okay. Leave the body perhaps by accident or a karmic process. Extreme cold. Sickness begins to age. Okay. But then, why do we become thirsty or hungry? Good question. The answer to that is because we drink, so we become more thirsty, and we eat. When we eat, we become more hungry. It is a fallacy that consumption of food is what keeps us looking vibrant. Just think of how you feel when you have eaten too much and ask yourself, if that food was good for me, then why am I feeling so bad? The Occult Gazette, written in London, England, printed an article by Trubshaw that said, man's body is electrical, contains dormant glands and cellular areas which, if stimulated by magnetic forces, would come into action and express powers of a so-called superhuman nature. It continues to state that the degenerative, life-shortening practice of eating food for pleasure forced these auriferous auriferous organs into retirement. As the body slowly adjusted its mechanism to meet the new condition or perish. And so, instead of dropping dead in his tracks, man dies by degrees. And the dying process is what science calls aging. As we begin to understand the pattern of aging, more and more people will be awakening to the new idea that they can live much longer than originally thought possible. And by doing so, they will be entering the new era of practicing Breatharianism. However, as we stated before, it would be dangerous for anyone to begin practicing Breatharianism without the proper preparation. The only way to determine the best foods for us as individuals is to purify the body so that we can exist on the highest vibrations possible. Then we can gain insight into why we are to survive. We gain insight into why we are to survive and why we have to act the way that we do. The day humanity realizes this, we will have a better understanding of our fellow human beings who will also be vibrating on a higher level of vibration. Some of us are farther along than others. Our strength increases as our health improves. And for Wiley, the less that he ate, the healthier he felt. But a Breatharian diet is only natural when we reach a stage where we are able to receive it. We live in stages. It is not hard to tell these stages in many people. For example, have you ever been at a party where you find that the people around you make you feel sad? That you can actually feel their problems even though they are not expressing them? Conversely, there are people whom you meet to whom you are instantly drawn. You can feel totally comfortable around them. I've met people like this. They put you at ease. These are people who probably have vibrations close to yours. These people can excite you to a point that you want to talk to them alone and pass up all the idle chit-chat that others are offering you. These people are the ones who have something very great to contribute to the rest of society. They are not necessarily celebrities or well-known in any way, except for the fact that they are sending out a vibration of well-being and great beauty. It is this energy that we should all be striving for so that others can benefit from it and eventually become stronger on their own. The transitional diet is one way to begin that process, but it is not the only way, and in fact, there are cases where it would be very detrimental. For example, a pregnant woman would never begin this transitional diet while she is with child. This is a process of nature, and nature is a very orderly thing. It is very important, however, that the mother and father think only positive and high energy thoughts to give the baby its strongest opportunity for survival after it is born. Thoughts of love, harmony, and spirituality are very necessary. Avoiding all drugs, including cigarettes, alcohol, spices, strong soaps, and smog, will prevent any of these substances from entering the placenta or fetus. A pregnant woman in a healthy state does not need excessive food. Overeating will only lead to a fat baby and mother. Once the baby is born, it has nature's perfect food readily available, that of breast milk. These stages are a very necessary chain of events in the beginning of one's life. However, there will come a time when a person knows instinctively that there is more to life. When a person has reached that section of the road in life, it is the right time to search for his or her own life, and the parent's role is completed. It is your challenge, your own challenge, to try to become one of the best people in life. Only universal communication can open the eyes of all people and bring in the new age. It is not the amount of reading and meditating that counts. What does count is the degree of love consciousness in our world, loving our neighbors, forgiving our enemies, resisting all evil, and realizing the oneness from which we all are. This is what the transitional diet may begin for some. Freedom from all discord and alleviation of the fear of world destruction, so that we are brought to the point of solving all problems easily and decisively. Joel Goldsmith, in his book, Realization of Oneness, says, "There is but one power operating in this universe. It is not a power of accident, death, disease, or sin. This power is the same power that causes the sun to rise and to set at its appointed time, and the tides to ebb and flow. The power that is operating in this universe is the same power that is operating in my consciousness. And it operated as the law unto my experience." He also states that every phase of discord that comes into any person's experience is a mesmeric influence from which he has not learned to protect himself. So, my friends, it is up to us to have the mental capacity to sustain the body. We have to have a strong willpower to bring the right energy into our system. As for Wiley, he found that he began to become less and less dependent on exterior powers. It enabled him to have more energy and strength to draw the cosmic energy into his system. You will never have real strength until you are ready to take the responsibility for your own life. Wow. That reminds me of one of my friends. She said, "Responsibility is the response to the ability." It's not just the ability to respond, but it's your response to the ability. Yeah. With today's busy lifestyles, it seems impossible to experiment with new concepts. To our way of thinking, the more knowledge that we acquire, the more we aspire to a higher level of consciousness. I like it. A major misconception that people have with regards to eating is that most people believe that the less they eat, the less energy they have. I certainly thought that years ago. Medical scientists have a difficult time explaining why man should eat, as opposed to why he should never eat. The less energy the body has to expend in digesting food and eliminating toxins, the more energy it has left to do other things. Food cannot build a cell or the body made up of cells. Our bodies have their own mechanisms in which new cells replace the old. This is a process in which the division of old cells produce the new ones. If food is such a great vehicle to producing new cells, then why do we deteriorate each year of our lives instead of becoming new every 7 years, which is the length of time our bodies take to replace all of the old cells? After experimenting with the intake of various foods in his body, it was very apparent that Wiley's energy increased as he took in less food. People eating 3 meals a day had a difficult time staying awake for 7 days without any sleep. Wiley can be active 24 hours a day when in his healthiest state, thus allowing him plenty of time to fit in all of his day's routines and also have ample time left over for developing more of the finer energies of the body. Now, I will say, it becomes an adjustment period if you do get into the frequency of not eating, not drinking, not sleeping. You really have to deal with your emotions. You really have to deal with your mind when you're in those types of frequencies, because the not sleeping part, we don't realize how much time is in a day. But when you're not really sleeping much, like maybe 2 to 3 hours at the most, and you see just how much time there is in one day, it becomes very, very apparent how much time you've been wasting and how much time you've been spending using it on so many different things. So for a person who is not used to having that much energy and just being up, boredom can set in when there's a gap. Like they say, nature abhors a vacuum. Nature doesn't like a vacuum. So when there's just a vacuum of space, like I used to do this at this time of day, but I'm not doing that anymore. And then I used to do this at this time of day, but I'm not doing that anymore. It's like, what else do I do? What do I do now? And that what do I do now question starts nagging at you. It becomes like an itch, like you just can't scratch it. And if you don't get creative, it can be very conflicting very quickly. So just a disclaimer, that not sleeping, it could be a shock. It could be a shocker. When we eat, we experience food predominantly through our 5 senses, which are sight, smell, taste, touch, and sound. We enjoy the taste. However, eating also provides an emotional crutch in some cases. Therefore, it is our security. Food can become a power trip in which you demand of others that they should eat the foods you want them to, or if they don't, something tragic might happen to them. I never demand anything from anybody. That I feel is a losing battle, at least from my experience. That's not a fight. That's not the hill I want to die on, as they say in the military. But as you become more aware, you will begin to judge yourself about your own eating habits. Now that does come into play. You will begin to deprogram yourself so that you can learn more of the proper foods to create higher vibrations in your body. This will begin to purify your blood, as the Breatharian transitional diet teaches. Self-knowledge is the key to pure happiness. Now, so many sages, so many ascended masters and yogis and saints and people have been just telling people over and over the same thing over and over. Like, sit with yourself, know thyself, self-knowledge, self-inquiry, self, right? Even I think the Bhagavad Gita talks about the self, and the Atman and the Brahman and the self, the capital S self. And, Nabiha would say this all the time as well, just sit with yourself. She would get so frustrated, just be with yourself, sit with yourself. And I'm like, okay. It is just something that they realized, people like Nisargadatta and, Ramana Maharshi and Krishnamurti and these people that they seem to have found something, like Muji and all these people, like, what have they found? And they found it within themselves. Something they found deep, deep within themselves. So just like we said before, only the one who is willing to risk going too far will find out how far one can go. But you don't have to go so far externally. You can actually go far internally. And I realized this the more and more I started to meditate, like I am only scratching the surface. There were times I would meditate and it would literally feel like I melted into the field of the all. Like I literally felt connected with everything, like with my eyes closed. I felt like my arm wasn't just over here, like my arm could be over there, my arm could be over there, my foot could be over there. Like it was like my body wasn't even there anymore. Like I was just here. It was like I was just a part of space, just in space. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, aren't we all just in space? Like they say we're just living on a rock in space, like the earth is just floating in space, but it's moving. And then we're in this Milky Way, this galaxy. And then it's constantly expanding. Everything's expanding. It's just moving. We don't even know where it's going. We don't even know where it's going. Everything's going somewhere. We don't even know where. And when you connect with all of this, it's like, what am I worried about? It's just amazing. It just brings a lot of perspective when you go deep into yourself and you realize there are universes. Like every cell is its own individual universe. So you have trillions of cells. So it would only be logical that you have trillions of universes within you. Just food for thought. For example, you have a day in the park planned with your best friend, whom you have not seen in a long time. But on that day, the weather decides to take a turn for the worse, and there is a large storm. Now thinking from a low consciousness, you would immediately be upset and let the weather ruin your entire day. And you would call up your friend and cancel the date. But the person of a higher consciousness would not let weather ruin their day. They would simply call their friend and the two of them could spend the day at the local museum. It's kind of like having an external versus an internal locus of control, right? You can't control the weather, but what can you do instead? However, the person who has reached total balance in their body would not be overly upset or overly excited by either circumstance. Okay, that's kind of like equanimity, right? Equanimous, like Goenka at Vipassana. Equanimous mind, and Nietzsche. I just got flashbacks. That person would be capable of staying in a state of continuous happiness, which is not related to any variable in life. When we become one with everything, winning and losing are one. We are able to break any dependence on the actions of people or any external conditions, including our bodies. How can we become too busy to begin anything new that we might want to experience? Here is a poem that says it very well. Begin again. Begin again. You can, you know. Seek out a better way to go. Forget the past. The past is dead, and all tomorrow lies ahead. There's never a time too late to start, to bring to fruition that dream in your heart. Begin again now, this minute, this day. A new life is waiting. Don't wish it away. To learn more about our body's functions is a step towards practicing Breatharianism. After reading this chapter, you should be beginning to realize that our bodies do not live by the food that we eat. This is a nutritional fallacy. Food simply acts as a stimulant to our bodies. A good example of this is the buzz you receive after taking your first sip of coffee in the morning. However, shortly after drinking the coffee, there follows a drop in the metabolism as the stimulant begins to wear off. Another example is the seed of a tree. Plant it in a small amount of dirt. As the tree matures, you measure the dirt and you will find that it is the same. So where does the tree come from? Not from the seed eating the dirt, or else there would be a big hole. What actually does happen is that the cosmic rays of the sun strike the chromosomes of the cells, which act as receiving devices for cosmic radiation. These rays materialize in the cells into various chemical elements which are necessary for organic growth and continued life of the plant. The magnetic cells of the plant attract the vibrations of the electronic rays and as a result, build the minerals necessary to continue life. Interesting. So the tree continues to grow through this breathing process. Similarly, our bodies are a complex of these minerals composed of electrons and atoms and molecules. It is not important that we also have proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Our bodies are mainly composed of the elements of the air, which are hydrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and of course, water. That's one thing that we forget about, right? We actually forget like we're swimming in water. We're like fish that don't know we live in water. Like the air has moisture. So the body has all the necessary elements it needs to sustain life simply by the process of breathing good, clean air. The latter is not always possible to find. However, it is when the body's balance must be kept in check. It is apparent to us that as one becomes less toxic, one feels a stronger intelligence. Our bodies are like a converter, and the more dense our systems, the more energy we block. It has been stated that the consciousness of man is 100 times more powerful than a 15 megaton bomb. When we feel the call to leave the normal way of life and explore new avenues, we begin to understand that we are leaving behind a limited sense of existence because we are ready to drop the dependency of persons, things, and all conditions of this world. And it is at this point that a whole new realm of spiritual existence is waiting for us. All feeling of time leaves, since there is no such thing as time. At this point in your life, you will no longer love, hate, or fear any conditions of this world, because now only the law of nature, or the universe, can be the cause of your nature. Now all things that are invisible to most people will be the comforting nature of your being. Your entire spiritual obedience will come from the inside of you. Most men are dead as they live. The inner spiritual man is alive within all people. It is just impossible to reach when the physical ego is fighting so hard to be predominant. And until we are able to purify our bodies, it will continue to be a struggle for men to find their spirituality in their lives and the lives of others around them. Each of us should prove to ourselves that we are healthier, for by doing so, we can open the door to all of our inner powers. We are sustained not by might nor by power, but by spirit. Zechariah 4 verse 6. To kick the habit of eating is not an easy process. But to Wiley, it was worth it to try, since he was totally convinced that he did not like the process of aging and where that process would lead him, to the graveyard. He has learned that when we leave the physical body, death to most people, the condition in which we leave it determines where we go, while in between lifetimes, and our spiritual health also determines our entrance into the world the next time around. The great masters taught that the creative cycle moves from the invisible to the visible. A good example of this is water. When at its lowest vibration, it is in a solid state of ice. When the temperature rises, it then becomes vapor and rises in the air. This is also true for man. We simply pass from one state of being to another depending on our vibrations at the time. That is why it is necessary for us to try to raise ourselves to the highest vibration possible. Knowing this inspired Wiley to make the necessary changes in his lifestyle. The biggest problem facing most people is getting rid of the idea that eating is one of the main pleasures of life. Wiley says that we cannot make such a claim when we have not tried any other lifestyles. He once read a short quote by an unknown author that said, "The way to eat a lot is to eat a little. That way you live long enough to be able to eat a lot." Wow. Most of us know that we would like to be happy and love everybody because then nothing but happiness would exist. Try to find new ways to bring happiness into your life. A good beginning is to be alone and just think. Coming back, circling back. Find out what you really like to do. See your own image as a clear light and follow that light. Reminds me of Bashar. Yeah. So follow your highest excitement to the best of your ability for as long as you can without attachment to outcome. Right? Like that was the game plan for existence. Your highest excitement for as long as you can to the best of your ability without attaching to outcome. Right? Literally that's what we're doing. Find out what you really like to do. See your own image as a clear light and follow that light. Do not let any dark enter the picture, which of course means no negative thoughts. See yourself free from all others but yourself, or see yourself free from all others but yourself. Because before you can love and help others, you must be able to help and love yourself. I agree. Take all the negative thoughts in your mind influenced by others and release them. Write them down and then throw away the paper. Become like a child again. Find all those wonderful, innocent thoughts you once carried with you, but someone else destroyed. Those are the ones to reach for. Do not be afraid to tell others about them. In fact, try meeting some new people in your life. Try meeting some new people, and you will be surprised to find that the new people in your life will know exactly how you feel because they too are searching. You can attract to yourself the vibrations that you put out into the universe. As far as the actual act of eating, learn from yourself why you are indulging. For example, were you disappointed about something? Or were you angry at someone? Most of our reasons for eating are not hunger, but some other reason. Boredom is a prime one and must be considered before hitting the kitchen. One good thing to do is to take a certain portion of food and put everything else away. Of course, never having anything in your house which might tempt you in one of your weaker moments. Chances are, if you have to go out to buy the junk food, you probably won't bother to get it. Most people's hunger is brought about by improper diet, inadequate to the point that the energy level keeps shooting up and down. This is the prime experience you will witness in the beginning stages of the transitional diet, that your energy level will stabilize. Hunger pains in your stomach are your body telling you not to eat. But keep one input. Wow, we used to just think the opposite, right? That the hunger pains were telling us to eat. This is saying it's telling you not to eat. Keep one important factor in mind. Unless you follow the program with full knowledge and understanding, do not begin it, since to do so might be seriously detrimental. We are telling people to look at themselves, because to know oneself is to become one with the universe. The lower vibrations of food stimulants will no longer replace the spiritual love vibrations that can be activated by what we put into our bodies. By eating less and less, we can increase our physical strength. Wiley has proven that by being able to lift 1,200 pounds, which is 10 times his weight, we can clear our heads and find our own direct source of universal intelligence, and we can live longer. It is also not difficult to see that in times of crisis, when food shortage is a reality, more people would be able to share what is left and begin to know the true nature of loving others as they do themselves. This could prevent panic in a serious food crisis. In returning to the perfect state, the era of Breatharianism, our entire picture of what the human body should look like will take on a new perspective. Everyone has his or her own ideas as to what a perfect body should look like. To us, perfection means that we are allowed to be in control of ourselves. It does not matter if we prefer to be small or large. One thing is certain: if you eat excessively, the body will store excess weight or toxic material throughout various areas of the body in the form of protein and fat. That is why when you fast, the body loses weight. It begins to decompose all the stored body protein and fat. The muscles and basic structure remain the same. As you begin to change your diet and the body becomes purer, it is only natural that the body will get its stimulations from the air we breathe, instead of from the food and liquids that we consume. Once the diet is perfected for each individual's body, all physical matter is the manifestation of a mental cause. We then have control of the body instead of the body controlling us. Additionally, our body weight will equalize and we will remain constant. As for mental growth at that point, we will begin to place the importance of our own selves in proper perspective. For example, after Wiley's first fast, he began to see that the job he was doing for his boss was far beyond what he was being paid for. Additionally, he was expending a tremendous amount of energy. You ever felt like that? You ever felt like that at a job? Like, is it worth it? He did not want to become like a lot of people who mostly work all of their lives for others, and then after 50 years of service, retire with a gold watch, bitter with the realization that all they have left is to try to survive an old age pension. That's probably why my parents think I'm crazy, you know. They're like, son, what are you doing? Get a job. Like, son, they would tell me all the time, son, go get a job. Like, do it the right way. That's not how you do it. Why are you traveling now? You're not supposed to be traveling now. That's for later on, right? Why are you doing all this now? You're not supposed to do that now. That's for later. Son, work up, save, work, save your money. Then travel, later. Retire first. I'm like, I'm already retired. I said, I'm retired now. His values changed. And as a result, energy increased. He became more independent. He went to his boss and told him that he wanted more benefits from the company. And he said it with such energy that he could not say no. He gave him a raise that tripled his salary. When you develop your own energy, you develop your own independence. Ooh, that's a bar right there. And that is what allows you to make your own decisions in life. First, you must develop into a strong spiritual individual who is guided by the power within instead of by external powers. To conclude this chapter, we would like to point out that many people's awareness today is at a stage that they are motivated and know that they do not have to, and that we do not have to continue in the direction in which we are going, but instead, there is a higher health consciousness to be found within the Breatharian philosophy. And that concludes Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is done. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening. You can take a screenshot if you like. This is the book called Breatharianism, Breathe and Live Forever, by Nancy Foss and Wiley Brooks. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you were live, you can comment live. If you were catching this on the replay, you can comment replay. And for all things Pranic living, you can check out our website that we have for you. The website is called patreon.com/pranicpath. And it has multiple books, over 20 books and counting, for your reading pleasure, multiple videos, multiple audios for your listening and viewing pleasure. and just so many things, just a Pranic library for people who are looking for material like this and just looking for motivation and inspiration on the journey. So once again, that's patreon.com/Pranic Path for the ones who are looking for more information. So blessings to you, my friend. These have been wisdoms of the ages from some of our modern sages. This has been Jerome Shaw on the Pranic Pages.